Yes, Matt. Yeah.
Ready? Good. So, evacuation procedure. I think you all know it, but I need to read it out anyhow. So it's a location plan of the exits and the assembly point situated on the doors of this room. Please familiarise yourself with it. On discovering a fire, please carry out the following: sound the alarm, attack the fire. On hearing the evacuation signal, please carry out the following: exit the building by your nearest safe exit. Report to assembly point G over there, and do not leave the assembly point for any reason until Mr. Maxey says you can go. We're not expecting a fire alarm, so anything fire alarm goes off is the real thing. Apologies for absence. Members away on council.
Mr. Mayor, we've received apologies from councillors Bell, Fowler, Gosling and Taylor.
We also have apologies from Councillor Chapman.
Are we happy to note those apologies?
Yes.
Simple, shouting yes will be.
Mr. Mayor, would you indulge me for 2 seconds regarding Councillor Bell?
Please do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the and on behalf of Councillor Bell for the reason we're here tonight is because we all know what happened 3 weeks ago, was it? So she is very grateful for all the help and assistance that everybody gave her on that night, and she recovered very well, as most of you are aware. The reason she is not here tonight has nothing to do with her hip, but she has been looking to have a pacemaker fitted today, so that she should be well on the mend. So just wanted to express thanks to everybody that helped. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any declarations of personal or prejudicial interest? I hear none. Then I now need to move the minutes of the last meeting, which are your song sheet, page 94, 95, 96 and 97. Are we happy to move those in an accurate record of that meeting? Have a proposer, please?
I move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder, anyone? David Humphries, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Right. Then the mayor's announcements. What have I been up to? Somewhere. It's been a long time. Wednesday, the 17th of July, I went with the mayoress to the one of the graduation ceremonies at the University of Warwick. That was a really impressive event. And what I particularly noted was, and admittedly this was business studies and things, the broad range of nationalities who were attending the graduation. And there was some poor sod they called the public orator whose job was to try and get all these names right. And he'd spend days beforehand trying to talk to students to find out how to pronounce names. And by and large he did. But it was a very nice, upbeat, uplifting event. Glad to go to. Sunday the 28th of July was Warwick District Council Civic Service, which was combined with a folk dancing event. And the highlight at the top of the nave was a clog dance. And you can imagine, if you will, a wooden sounding board and a substantial lady in metal tipped clogs pounding away on this wooden board, unaccompanied by anyone else, with great gusto. So another cherished memory from my year as mayor. Sunday the 29th of September was my civic service at St Cuthbert's Church, and afterwards at the Griffin Pub. And I was very grateful for both present members of the council and past members of the council who attended that. And a bewildering array of chain gang as well. So that went very nicely, I thought. October 1st, Warwick Legal Services in St Mary's. Again, the good and the great, the red judges, the purple judges, and everything. Just one of those civic events of the year that it's actually quite nice to attend. And on the 5th of October, I held a local history event at Merivale Hall, courtesy of someone. Thanks to a lot of help from both officers of this council and friends, a very successful event. I have to say that the mayor can only put on these events if the officers are prepared to support them, and they did magnificently, both my civic service and this one, so I was very grateful. And I think tomorrow night I've got a wine and cheese evening at Blythe Hall. I was thinking about, did I need a car for that? But apparently, as the mayoress pointed out, this is a wine and cheese evening. You need a car. So I should be transported there and hope I will enjoy myself, but not too much. Deputy Mayor, anything to report on your activities?
Yeah, so I've deputised for a couple of events that you've not been able to go to because you've been busy with other engagements. So it was lovely to go to the Polesworth Carnival back in July. And I was supported by County Councillor Marion Humphreys. It was lovely to be able to judge the floats and be part of that carnival, so thoroughly enjoyed that. On Sunday the 8th of September, I attended the Mayor of Tamworth Civic Service and was treated to a fabulous array of songs through the choir. Which was a fabulous little service.
No clog
dancing. Lovely choir, so that was quite nice. And then on Saturday, the 21st of September, I attended the Mayor of Atherstone Town Council Civic Service, and that was really quite nice. And there was a bit of a history tour about church. So at the end of the service, we was shown around the church and given a bit of a history on St Mary's Church in the marketplace. And then it was lovely and a pleasure to attend your parish civic service as well. So, quite a few civic services.
Thank you. Agenda item 6, to answer questions from members and the public pursuant to standing order number 7. And we have 2 questions, both from Councillor Simpson, and we'll take them one at a time. Mark will give the questions, and then the leader of the council will give the answer. Mark, the first one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At a previous meeting, North Warwickshire Borough Council agreed to review the current local plan as soon as was practicable. Since that meeting, government policy on the number of new houses required in each area and the protection of the green belt has been amended. In the light of the current emerging national policy, could the leader of the council ask officers to bring an update to the next LDF subcommittee and then report on to the Planning and Development Board and the Executive Board on the next steps for the review of the local plan? In particular, could that review set out how the Greenbelt and other protected designations can be assessed so that the control this council has on where development should take place is strengthened as far as possible, despite the threat to this which has been raised by the government in its draft revised policy?
That's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Simpson raises a very important point, and the threat to the green belt from the government's proposed changes to the national planning guidance is one of the main risks that the borough faces at the moment. The council has a very good record at providing the development that is needed, both in terms of housing and employment, and works carefully to try to ensure development happens in the most appropriate locations. Key to this is the protections afforded by the green belt and our other landscape designations, And if the government is intent on putting that at risk, then I agree with Councillor Simpson. The council should look very carefully at this. I've asked the Chief Executive to ensure a programme to do this is reported as suggested by Councillor Simpson.
Councillor Simpson, your second question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the light of the recent and ongoing partial closure of the main Alderton to Coleshill Road cluster, could the council's leadership engage further with Severn Trent plc to prevent further significant inconvenience to residents for what appears to be solely the company's operational convenience?
That's all right.
Excuse me. Councillor Simpson raises another important issue. Members from across the chamber have consistently raised the issue of the impact Severn Trent plc's operations have had on our borough and its residents, which can often have a particular impact given the rural nature of our area, something that it does not always feel like Severn Trent appreciates. Members will be aware that we have a councillor workshop with Severn Trent's representatives at 5 p.m. on the 4th of December ahead of full council that evening, and this represents an excellent opportunity to raise matters such as these with them.
Thank you. Let's move on to the minutes and notes of the meeting. Such agenda item 7, Planning and Development Board. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Could I move that the minutes and notes of the meetings of the Planning and Development Board on the 8th of July, 5th of August, 2nd September and 7th of October be
Just seconded. Thank you. Page 103. Page 198. Oh,
98 first.
where have I got?
You've gone split and some.
Where are they? So many of them. 98. 99. 100. 101. 102. 103. 104. 105. 106. That's the same.
Sorry.
And oh, there's more. 107A.
Councillor Jens wanted to speak.
107.
Sorry.
Councillor Jens. Oh yes.
Thank you, Mayor. On the appeal update that went to the board on the 2nd of September, I was very disappointed to find that the Willows application at Cliff was overturned, that our refusal was overturned at appeal. That site has a history of unauthorised development, and there's been since the appeal gave permission for that development, there have been allegations of further inappropriate development taken there. I would just like to ensure that as an authority we are going to be enforcing any breach of planning there. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Want to answer that?
I was just waiting to see if we needed more batteries for the mayor. Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor Jones. I mean, this is an important issue, and a lot of members, all around the chamber, regularly raise issues about how effective we can be in ensuring planning enforcement takes place. There are some high interest and high concern areas where it appears that there are problems with applicants abiding by the rules that have been given to them by either the Borough Council as the planning authority or by the Secretary of State on appeal. We have 3 members of staff now in the enforcement team, and very much I expect them to regularly enforce the decisions without fear or favour, and equally to all applicants. There are, I have to say, some that appear more likely to wish to break the rules than others. And therefore, the reason we have 3 members of staff is to make sure that we stay up to date. There have been some delays recently, I think, with the introduction of the new IT system, but I very much hope that the next meeting of the planning department will have an update on the application you referred to and any others, improvements actually may be appropriate.
Thank you. When we got to 107B, come in there.
107, we've had, I'm very grateful to Councillor Simpson's question earlier. This refers to obviously development in Greenbelt, and there was an application for Cowley's care home, which this council and development board very much supported because there is definite need. But again, it's our Greenbelt. Our Greenbelt in North Warwickshire takes up 2/3 of our authority land. And I know in this chamber, I'm always saying, north of the A5, we have no green belts. And I'm very keen to see that the question has been raised in relation to a review of the green belt. And under NPFF regulations, a review of the green belt can't be done. It's a review of the local plan. So along hand in hand with the review of the local plan that is planned, then I think that the green belt very much does need reviewing. Greenbelt obviously has got several purposes, to prevent unrestricted sprawl of large built-up areas, to prevent neighbourhood towns merging into one another, should we say Brendan, Polesworth, Haggerston, to assist in safeguarding the countryside from encroachment, which we're seeing all the time, under pressure from the new regulations and laws that the NPPF is going to bring in, to preserve the setting and character of historic towns. I think Atherstone is very much a historic town, and to assist in urban regeneration by encouraging the recycling of derelict and other urban land, which I think is very important in this council. And we do have some brownfield sites and urban regeneration land that really does need attention. In 2015, we did have a, with other local authorities, we actually looked at the Green Belt review process, and there was a lot of effort put into the bigger towns, the bigger cities, but unfortunately, it didn't come out very favourably. So I do encourage. I am grateful that that question was raised, and I do encourage that a review of the Green Belt is brought forward very much. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak on that particular point? Councillor Simpson, do you want to answer that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ridley. I think across the chamber we've all been assiduous in trying to protect the green belt. It matters to all of us. At the present time, development pressure on all of our boundaries, right the way around, is increasing. And we have lost a significant amount of green belt due to HS2. We regularly lose bits of green belt because of one-off developments. The threat now, I think, is greater than ever, and it is becoming even greater still in those parts of the borough which are not green belt because of the changed rules. The increased requirement for the duty to cooperate with other areas. I'm sure we all remember that we had a substantial increase in building to meet the needs of neighbouring authorities. That's only going to get worse. And I was reading again, not that long ago, Andrew Rayner's letter to chief executives on the 30th of July. And just to emphasise some of the reasons behind my question, why I think there's an urgent need for all of us to take action. I'll only quote a bit of it because I'm trying generally not to take it out of context, but she's talking about changes to the grey belt and green belt and grey belt, and the Deputy Prime Minister said that brownfield land can only be part of the answer, which is why we are consulting on changes that would see councils involved required to review boundaries and release greenbelt land where necessary to meet unmet housing and commercial need. The demand therefore is not just housing, it's commercial need. And the threat to our borough on the edge of the conurbation is huge. So we do need to redouble our efforts to be sure that we are doing whatever we can to protect the rurality and open space. I'm saying this, Mr. Mayor, on the basis that this is what this council has always done under both political leaderships. I don't think this is a party point. We're all bothered about it, and I think we're all going to work together to do it. But it's important that we really do it. There are undoubtedly going to be financial consequences as a result of it, but I think they are necessary and important financial consequences. So, thank you.
Anything else on 107C? 107D? 107E? And assuming we've finally got to the end of the plan of development, you want, so to speak, would Councillor Simpson like to move adoption?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I beg to move that the meetings of the Planning and Development Board now be adopted.
Seconded, anyone? Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Right. Moment. And we're on to executive board. That's the one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the minutes of the executive board held on the 17th of July, 16th of September of this year be received, and also to consider the recommendations of those two meetings.
Is that second? Thank you, Carl. Page 108. Page 100. Oh, sorry. Oh, who's waving at?
This is the screen.
Yet again, we need more batteries for
You can't sit.
You stick your hands.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to talk about agenda item 23, which was a resolved item, but it's a supplementary item for the leisure and open space money that's been raised as part of 106 contribution. Yeah, generally, this I think is a fantastic use of the cash. Section 106 agreements are only there to partially offset the downside of planning and development, and this is a great opportunity where money that has been raised through that process is now finally being delivered to benefit the communities that have with development. So I really welcome it, and I think the board is to be congratulated in finding these innovative ways forward.
Which page were you actually talking to?
Page 111.
I'm only on page 108.
I've done maybe I need to get back to the
109, 110, 111. Yes. Councillor Webb.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. I agree with everything you've said, quite naturally. An excellent way. Just shows, in my opinion, this council, this administration, runs things efficiently and effectively for the best outcome for our residents.
Anything else on 111? 112? 113?
Mr. Mayor, on page 113, item number 28, local council's charter, it was said we would like it minuted on that we would like to express our thanks to Richard Havgood, who chairs the North Warwickshire Area Committee, for all his sterling work and help in producing this document and getting the charter running, etc. And very modestly, Councillor Riley, who kicked it off all when he was at the county council. It was Councillor Riley that really got this going across the county. So we did want it minuted. Thanks to Councillor Riley and also Richard Hunt.
Anything else on 113? Councillor Fox.
There appears to be a typo. I think it's meant to be the charter, not the carter on day.
You are
28.
correct.
Okay, just for accuracy check.
114. That's all right.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I now move that the minutes of the Executive Board held on the 17th of July and the 16th of September of this year be adopted.
There's a second. Oh, Councillor Simpson. All those in favour, please. Thank you. Oh, the next one, drowning in paperwork here, is the Local Development Framework Subcommittee. Councillor Watson.
That's me, Mr Mayor, thank you. Yes, I'd like to move that the minutes of the Local Development Framework Subcommittee on the 24th of July and the 10th of September be adopted.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Thank you, Davina. So page 115. 116 and 117. Councillor Watson.
19. Two more pages.
Is it? Well, we keep going. Okay, 118, 119.
No questions, thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that those minutes on the 24th of July and 10th of September be adopted.
Okay. That's seconded. Thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. So now we're on to number 10, Community and Environment. Councillor Wright.
Mr Mayor, I propose the minutes of the Community and Environment Board held on 20th of August be received.
That's seconded. Thank you. So, page 120, 121, 122, 123, A, and over the page 123B.
I propose the minutes be adopted.
Thank you. Seconded, yes, Councillor Ian. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. And now we're on to Resources Board. Helen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Resources Board held on the 3rd of September, business be received.
Seconder for that. Thank you. Page 124. Page 125. 126. And 127.
And adopted.
Yes, secondly, please. Thank you. All those in favour, please show. That's resources. Now we're on to Taxing and General Licensing Committee, Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Taxi and General Licensing Committee held on the 6th of October 2024 be received.
Seconded. Yes, thank you, Councillor Stewart. Page 128.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I move that the minutes of the Taxi and General Licensing Committee held on 2nd of October be adopted.
Seconded. Yep. Councillor Turley. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Now on to special subgroup, Councillor Cruz.
Move the minutes of the special subgroup on the 8th of October be received.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Watson, thank you. Page 129.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Minutes of the special subgroup held on the 8th of October.
Seconded. Councillor Watson again. All those in favour, please show. Yep. Right. Now we're on to receive and consider any notice of motion under Standing Order 10. Councillor Wright, I believe we have a notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I have a notice of motion which has been circulated, but I would like to propose an amendment to that notice of motion, which I would like circulated now, please.
Should I just see? I've not seen this myself yet, but I've been told there is one that shows track changes in red, and then there is a full clean version. In red. So can we have a couple of them on the top shelf as well, please? When you're done. Thank you. Ah. Yeah. Okay. You just need a minute for you to read these. You need a second, because you haven't been seconded yet. Okay. Do a second, Councillor Wright. Thank you very much.
Mr Mayor, I think we'd like to ask for a 5-minute adjournment to listen and digest.
I think that's reasonable.
I think it is too.
But
you.
5 minutes,
Thank you.
we stand adjourned for 5 minutes. Fine, thank you all very much. So, where we got Councillor Wright had proposed his motion with an amendment and it had been seconded. Are there any other amendments? In which case, would Councillor Wright like to make your formal proposition in your notice of motion?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have to say it's with a degree of shock that I have to propose this notice of motion. Shock because of what the Labour Party have done in the 3 months they've been in government. Sir Keir Starmer said throughout the campaign that he would be able to fix everything, and he had a fully funded proposal to achieve this. Despite countless reassurances during the run-up to the election about how taxes were not going to rise, and we will be the party that cares, the elderly, the vulnerable, and everybody, we have seen the complete opposite. Within the first few days, it was clear that nothing could have been further from the truth. Prime Minister and the Chancellor have told us that they were left with a £22 billion black hole in the finances. But we know that that has been created by the massive pay rises for the majority of public sector workers. That is unaffordable. The government know this as well, but will not admit it, even refusing to answer a Freedom of Information request from the Financial Times asking for the details of this. What have we seen in the first 100 days of the Labour government? We've seen consumer confidence drop to the lowest it's been for years. We've seen interest rates for investors falling. The VAT on private schools, at best, will not generate anywhere near the revenue that was estimated and at worst is illegal and will add more pressure to the state system that the Labour Party said that they will fix. Inward investment thwarted because of ill thought out comments by ministers. Her own opinion, we were told by Number 10, only days after they had approved them. National insurance set to rise in the budget, despite being assured it wouldn't, and despite her opposition to this when it rose in 2021. At that time, she said that rises to employers' national insurance will make each new recruit more expensive and increase the cost to business. She also added, the decision to saddle employers and workers with the jobs tax takes money out of people's pockets. The economy in Labour's hands is disastrous and is in meltdown. The withdrawal of the winter fuel allowance being one of the biggest betrayals to the general public, ably and abetted by our two council members who are now MPs. Councillor Taylor and Councillor Gosling both voted against the Conservatives' amendment that the winter fuel allowance was not withdrawn, but yet they supported the government on that proposal. It's shocking. It is a shocking state of affairs when this council, led admirably by the Conservative administration, have to pick up the pieces from a Conservative government that said they were going to care. We care, always have. So I put forward the notice of motion as printed, but the key points that this council writes to the government and expresses our displeasure and our opposition to this decision. We endorse the work of the financial inclusion team. We use the £55,000 that is now left. It was considerably more prior to the publishing of our notice of motion 3 weeks ago. It beggars belief, to be honest, in some quarters, that we had £76,500 left in the hardship fund on the 17th of September. Yet we then published our notice of motion. Money disappeared out of this council like it was going out of fashion. The members on the opposite side spend. Soon as you thought it was going to be taken away, you spent like mad. I think it is quite despicable. We are proposing that the remaining £55,000 is given to those pensioners that are losing their winter fuel allowance but are only just over the eligible criteria. They don't qualify for pension credits, but they have very modest incomes and very modest savings. We're proposing that there are 521 pensioners in North Warwickshire that fall into that criteria, and they are given a direct payment of £100 each, which doesn't replace, but it's a help and a start. Ironically, our MP is running workshops, I think she's calling them, on how to claim pension. Well, I'll help you fill in the forms to claim pension credits. She's trying to arrange one in Coleshill for this weekend. She's trying to find somewhere warm because she recognises that it's obviously pensioners that will be coming. She's bothered about herself being warm when she's running her workshop, but clearly not bothered about the pensioners when they are at home. So that's what we are proposing, and we are also proposing an additional £35,000 to be put into the hardship fund, funded from the New Burdens Funding Reserve for projects proposed by councillors in wards that have yet to use their full allowance of the hardship under the existing financial hardship fund. And that will be administered by a member panel consisting of 3 Conservatives, 2 Labour and 1 Dordon Independent member. I move the motion.
First, Councillor Davey, you've seconded this. Do you want to speak now or do you want to reserve your right to speak later?
I'd like to reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. I've seen Councillor Stewart first, then Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Those of you who've ever worked closely with me will know that I treat the outcomes as the starting point. You identify what you want to achieve and you work backwards from there. When I saw the original motion, it confused me. I looked at the outcomes and I wondered what they sought to achieve. After all, I could see of no reason why councillors couldn't seek to give their available hardship funds to the financial inclusion team here. Similarly, I'm certain there are sound and valid reasons around why this might be the best way of achieving those required outcomes. But then I'm confused. I'm confused as to why there hasn't been any approach to find consensus outside of this chamber ahead of the meeting tonight. Something which is only more confusing now I've seen the amendments. Or if there has been any approach to find consensus, I haven't been privileged enough to be part of it. So as is my method, I continue to work backwards. And I'm certainly not going to argue about the valuable and tenacious work done by the officers here, something that I'll touch upon shortly. However, I then make my way to the opening statement of the motion and the scales fell from my eyes. Suddenly everything came into focus. The reason why there's been no attempt to build consensus and why there's been no approach, well, to individual councillors down at the Dordon Independent, but certainly not to me, to donate the funds to the Central Reserve is to make a party political point. And if it's not the case, it's certainly a theory which fits the facts. Now, Mr. Mayor, in your opening remarks following your acceptance of office, you made the point that you would hope that this chamber and these meetings would not be used as a platform ahead of the next general election. Now, I'm uncertain about how much attendees that night back in May realised what little opportunity there would be to going forward to be given in that regard. However, as someone who feels that party politics is of limited value at this level of representative government, I hope that your commitment to that expressed wish remains as strong as ever. Because at least when Simon Cowell listens to auditions, he has access to a big red buzzer. And I certainly don't have that luxury. Back when the hardship fund was initially proposed and subsequently amended in the executive committee, Councillor Wright in his summing up detailed that he felt it was incredibly arrogant of members here to suggest that they knew better than experts at the council on how to deliver welfare programmes. Possibly the only thing that I'm grateful for this debate here tonight is that I'm now able to answer that point. No, I'm not an expert in delivering borough-wide welfare initiatives. But where I am an expert is on the needs within my own ward. And I'm somewhat surprised to hear a suggestion that we need to take responsibility and delivery from local representatives and put it into the hands of the unelected bureaucracy. It's an interesting illustration of what I believe is known as taking back control. I was still angered. I'm still angered, as you can probably tell by that debate, however many months on it is. I felt it shamed us as a body. There was no one here that night that were able to think along party lines and use their privileged position as councillors to deliver quickly and efficiently to those in need. The fact that you could have 2 disparate families who might need to find a new pair of trainers or shoes for the kids to go to school. They may be differentiated by the fact that one earned £200,000 a year or more, and they would be eligible, but the other that might be in receipt of a small amount of benefit would not. Now, I suppose there might be some guilt. There might be some guilt if that well-to-do family's mortgage might have quintupled, or it might just be spite. I don't know. But what I do know is that I've had cases presented to me which their circumstances would have been alleviated by the scheme as originally proposed, and I've had to inquire as to their benefit status. Whatever your motivation in making that amendment, it made me complicit, and I'm angry about that. Now, I'm grateful for the support offered by the financial inclusion team here. Their work is excellent, and I'm able to point that I was able to work with them to put into place a scheme which is now active within my ward, which is now delivering food, community and company to over 100 people every week. And it will continue to grow. The Spud Club, as it's called, is for everyone. But by engineering backwards from outcomes, it meant that those in greatest need are able to access whilst maintaining their dignity. And that is seemingly a rarity at the moment, where it's seemingly politically expedient to dehumanise and even demonise those who are the most vulnerable and in the greatest need. By being inclusive and making it for everyone, Spud Club is moving towards being truly self-sustaining and also delivering considerable community benefits. And I'm working with the financial inclusion team here to allow them to use the Spud Club as a pop-up hub. And we've already had visits from police, the Neighbourhood Watch, Public Health, and dare I even mention it, and UMP. Now, I do believe in sharing learning, and also there's a need to help others access services. So I emailed council colleagues in Coleshill North, Coleshill South, and Curdworth to let them know that they could detail this to the residents and that they may benefit from access to the service. Now, with the exception of Councillor Farrow, no response, not even an acknowledgement. If the focus of members is to support vulnerable residents, I cannot fathom why that would be the case. Now, when I received the motion, I thought about tabling an amendment. Yeah. I thought that I was thinking about maybe I would seek that half the funds in relating to Water Orton be exempt. This would have potentially forced others in a party political move to vote against that part of the motion. But what would be the outcome? My village would still have lost the money, and I'd be playing the party political game that I think demeans us all. So instead, I rushed through my funding request to allocate that money to the parish council to enable the Transfer Spud Club into a self-sustaining independent entity that will be able to continue through the winter and beyond. Now, it's somewhat strange to think that the ruling group, in the motion as it was originally posted, would have again tried to take available funds from Water Orton, my village, and put it towards funding other ambitions. There's a feeling in our village that we are forgotten within North Warwickshire. Yeah, and that investments that are made elsewhere are happily funded by our council tax, but we see precious little refunded to us. Now, who would have thought, when the politics in this country is seemingly goose-stepping to the far right with every single day, that socialism has found a safe haven in the body of the North Warwickshire and Bedworth Conservative Association? Now, I was going to potentially abstain on this motion as it was originally written, as I do not believe it is for me to tell other councillors how funding allocated to them should be spent. I'm not that arrogant. I also feel there's little point in continued debate on this matter, as no one is likely to change their mind on what's been said. I am angered and appalled when we talk about potentially building consensus. This debate has been delayed for 3 weeks. I cannot make a judgment on whether this is best for my residents. I don't know how many of the 521 it will affect will be within my ward. I do not know how to best represent the views of my residents or best represent them when I'm given this with 5 minutes notice. So I'm still minded to abstain because I cannot make a rational judgment. But I also feel, like I said, there is precious little point in continued debate on this matter when no one is likely to change their mind based on anything that's been said. As I detailed at the start, I don't feel that party politics should overshadow our overriding commitment and the privilege we have to deliver for those that we represent. And strangely, the only time that message has ever seemed to gain any
Councillor, can you start? You get 8 minutes.
Yes.
You've had 8 minutes.
Can you just said so?
Can you?
So the only time I've gained any traction when I pointed out that for most of us, political sniping is just really boring. Therefore, I wish to move under Standing Order 19B that a vote on the motion every time.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not quite sure, because I can't remember which standing order this
Chief Executive is busy looking it up.
No, it's not that, not the one I'm about to make. I was deeply concerned, genuinely, and I know Councillor Stewart is angry and concerned and upset, but a reference to goose stepping towards the far right was made. I'd like to give him the opportunity to clarify what he meant by that and make it clear that he wasn't referring to.
I'm more than happy to make that assessment. I'm just saying is that there is a real danger in society at the moment where voices from the far right are becoming increasingly expressed and occasionally legitimised.
Okay.
I am not making that suggestion that it's from anyone within this chamber. And if I made that suggestion, I will wholeheartedly retract.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So members, understanding order 17, at the end of any speech, there are a number of motions that may be moved and seconded, one of which is that the vote be taken. So it's been proposed by Councillor Stewart, it would need to be seconded and then voted on. If that's carried, there are no more speeches apart from the right of reply from the mover of the original motion, which would be Councillor Wright.
Councillor Watford.
I'd like to second Councillor Stewart's motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, could you or your assistant tell us if we have a debate on that now, or do we simply move to a vote?
That goes for a vote.
Yeah, so it says, standing order 19, at the end of any speech, any of the following motions may be moved and seconded without comment. B is the vote be taken. This must be voted on immediately without discussion or right of reply. And then just to clarify what I've just said is, if it's carried, then any right of reply under standing order 18, which is the point I made about Councillor Wright. So you're voting on no further speeches other than Councillor Wright.
Okay, so this isn't a vote on the actual. We need to take that vote.
Well, sorry, I'd like to request a recorded vote, please.
Not on
On our motion, isn't it?
No, this
No,
is a
no,
vote
no, no,
on
it's
whether
not.
we go straight to the vote.
Whether we go straight.
Oh, okay, all right, sorry.
So are we clear what we're going to vote on?
Yeah, no speech.
We don't speak to this now. We either vote in favour of what Councillor Stewart is saying, that we basically bring the debate to the end and just go to the vote on the motion, or whether we continue with the debate. So those in favour of Councillor Stewart's motion, please show.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Those against, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That's the motion is lost.
The motion's lost, Councillor Stewart. Councillor Ruby, I saw your hand next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is truly astonishing to witness the Conservative group suddenly show concern for poverty and universal benefits after 14 years of dismantling our social safety nets. Are we really supposed to believe that you've had a change of heart? Let's not forget, your government cut the education maintenance allowance, depriving low-income students in this borough of opportunity and slashing universal child benefit. I could go on. But suddenly, you're the champions of the disadvantaged. You're shocked, you said, that the incoming government has had difficult decisions to be made. I wonder where you've been for the last 14 years. Just last year in this chamber, Conservative councillors suggested, when told there were over 6,000 children in poverty in this borough, that those children freezing at home should go to warm hubs or local libraries, and implied that disabled people should start paying their way by charging them for parking. These shocking comments show your true disregard for the vulnerable, and now you expect us to believe in your words you care. Let's be absolutely clear, this motion is pure political theatre. I agree with with fellow councillor. This decision about winter fuel allowance was made 3 months ago, and we've not heard any of these being proposed since. The additional sum of 35,000. We've been through all the board minutes tonight, not a mention of it. It's almost as if it's just tacked on to a political motion. Just months ago, voters rejected the Conservatives after 14 years of failure, both nationally and here. But that's democracy. Instead of reflecting on working with the new government, who is trying to clean up the mess that you've created, you've just chosen to double down. Here you are feigning outrage that anyone might dare to hold you accountable for the mess that you've left behind. This motion is just a distraction from the wreckage that you created. You left public services collapsing with staff morale at rock bottom, endless strikes and chronic underfunding. You wrecked the economy, making desperate, last-minute, unfunded spending commitments to try and save your parliamentary seats. And now this government has had to pick up the pieces. Take the winter fuel allowance. The government has looked at necessary reforms, not because they want to, because your economic mismanagement left the government with no choice. As you seem to have forgotten what happened over the last 14 years, perhaps a reminder might be timely. Remember Theresa May, who found the magic money tree for the DUP? Boris Johnson doling out calls and contacts to Tory lords and donors. We're the ones, not your mess. And let's not forget Liz Truss. She wasn't here very long, but she managed to blow up the economy in record time, leaving mortgage payers across North Warwickshire struggling. Not a peep from you then. No motions in this council, nothing. The simple truth is that Labour will not gamble with the future of this country. This motion is just smoke and mirrors. It's a political motion that you've tacked a couple of ideas on, ideas really that you could have done sooner. We could spend days, even weeks, listing the ways that your party has failed North Warwickshire and the country, but we'd never get any actual work done. Let's talk about the hardship fund. You voted against it. There's a named vote. You enforced a 25,000 threshold for accessing it. Perhaps just an example of your actual obsession with means testing. This is what we're trying to fix. Labour has already increased funding for universal credit by £2 billion, speeding up claims by 30% and reaching over 6 million households. That's real action, not just empty PR. The people of North Warwickshire and this entire country deserve real leadership, not just hollow promises and political motions. Once again, you're just proving just how out of touch you are. This motion is about grandstanding, not governance, and the people of North Warwickshire deserve better than this. And for that reason alone, we will not be supporting it.
Anybody else want Caroline?
Just to bring it back to North Warwickshire and our residents and our people here. This motion is about making sure that some of those people that might be affected can have that directly, that £100 directly into their bank account when identified by our financial inclusion team. The hardship fund, up until recently, had been almost there a year and barely used. One of the things that all good administrations do is look at what grants you've got. Are they actually working in the way that they were intended? Are they useful? Are people drawing them down? Are they having an impact? Are outcomes being delivered on the basis of what you intended? And in fairness, that hardship fund was not working as anyone particularly wanted, and it wasn't particularly well used or drawn down upon. And it was difficult to look at different people that are coming in at the moment saying, this is a struggle, that's a struggle. I might not meet this target of getting my pension credit form in by the deadline, because obviously there's a lot of people and it's tight and the turnaround times are very slow. But this enables us to repurpose a poorly used fund. Let's be honest, let's actually look at it. It wasn't very well used. The threat of it being repurposed sent people off in a frenzy. If any one of those had come and said, you know, why were you looking to do that? We could have had a conversation, but nobody actually asked the question. But repurpose this fund is what this is about. And actually that burden fund, that additional 35 enables not just those £55,000 to give £100 to those particular pensioners that have been identified as being just over that limit, so they don't get that help. We've had people come and see some of us that are £2 over or £3 over, and it is very difficult when you're looking at those people, just £2 over being qualifying, or, you know, I haven't got any savings. So of course this is working with that team, looking at people with limited savings under £3,000, looking at people who are just over that threshold and have lost £300, and it's putting a little bit back in. The £35,000 is actually for the people within this room who haven't managed to identify or have someone come towards them and say, actually, I'd like some help. I've had a couple in my ward, there's a few things that were on the boil, but nothing's come up, come to that level yet. But this enables us to apply to a fund And so I'd still like in my ward to help those people, because I haven't used what was there for me before. And I think actually it moves it from something that wasn't doing a lot and wasn't delivering the outcomes we would all want to see in our communities to something that might help in the short term. And I think for that reason, I would like to support it.
I see no other hands in the air. You're going to get, secondly, I need to wait now until, do you want to speak now?
No, when you want me to.
As a, Councillor Jackson.
I'd just like to say that I had ideas in the pot for the hardship fund prior to the motion that was proposed, and the reason why I put them through was because we wanted to do a warm hub and a food bank in our local area, which will help pensioners and everybody else that is struggling, families as well. And also donated some money to the school, because there's a lot of families that are at the school that are not affording uniforms, meals, and I don't want any children to be at home not having any heating or food as well. So I'd just like to say that whilst I understand the frustration, but I am abstaining because of what was said before by the others. But I do think that the hardship fund was there, and the reason why I spent my money in my ward was for very valuable reasons.
Thank you. Councillor Wattles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask for clarity on the fourth point down, please? Am I to assume that because a while ago, Councillor Osborne and myself opposed West, a while ago, this was months ago when it first came into force, spent our hardship fund, most of it, at that point, on good causes for the community because of the barriers that were put in for the £25,000, etc., which we've all gone through already tonight. Does this mean, by reading this, that we would therefore not benefit from that in our wards because we no longer have any of the hardship fund left? Because that's how it reads. So can I have a point of clarity, please?
Can I ask if Councillor White want to address that in his summing up? Will that do if he addresses that in his summing up? Councillor David, you want to do your second? Oh, sorry, there's Councillor. I think it's a screen. You need longer hands. I can't see.
I need many things, Mr. Mayor, but longer hands is not upon my list. Mr. Mayor, I always find it difficult at full council when we have these political discussions, but inevitably, as a political body elected on political lines, it is natural that we should do that from time to time. And I genuinely was listening to what Councillor Stewart was saying about looking at the intent and what do we wish to achieve. So I think there's a bunch of things in here, but to me, the intent and what we will be achieving in voting for this, those of us who choose to, will be a payment of £100 to pensioners in the defined need category. Voting against that is pretty clear. We're voting against pensioners having that £100 benefit. Oh, that's a pretty clear decision. Now look, there's all sorts of arguments on motivation and why you're doing it now, why you're not doing it. And I really don't like people telling me what's in my head as to why I made that decision, because 90% of the time I'm not really sure entirely what's in my head to begin with, let alone why I make the decision or don't. It's instinctive, it's a gut reaction. But to me, this really is quite clear. Do you want to give pensioners £100 in the defined categories or not? I do.
Councillor David, do you want to do your seconding? And this is me bringing the debate to a close. You doing the seconding speech, and then I'll ask Councillor Wright to solve afterwards. So please go ahead.
I'd like to echo
or still Councillor Gosling, now an MP, when she stood up in the chamber and said that she wanted the hardship fund to be those that came to her door on a Friday night without any money for lecky. So far, the money that's been spent hasn't gone to anything like that. It's gone to groups that need the help. So the original reason for having that fund wasn't used. Therefore, it needs to be used for those that do need it. And that's individuals that need it, and not groups that where maybe some do and some don't. And I agree that some people need that help, which is why the hardship fund was set up in the first place. But to give what's remaining in the hardship fund to those that do meet the criteria of need, those that are losing the winter fuel payment, those that are in receipt of council tax benefit and can't claim pension credit and universal credit because they're a few quid over. So I will be supporting this. And as Councillor Simpson says, it's the difference between us saying yes to the needy or no.
Councillor Wright, can you please address what Councillor Waffles' question, the process, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, clearly there's no point answering the questions that Councillor Stewart put forward because he's now gone. Oh, here he is. Councillor Stewart, you spoke about consensus, but unfortunately we live in a, or we are in a political environment, and that's how politics works, unfortunately. You said independent. Yes, you are an independent. You said you gave your £2,500 to an independent group. I would remind you, obviously, that you gave it to the parish council, of which you are chair. Just a point of clarification. Points of clarifications for Councillor Reary. You said you heard no mention of this in the months prior to now, following the general election. No, well, unfortunately, this was the first full council, and that's how it works, Councillor Reary. So the clarification is, if anybody wants to raise a notice of motion under Standing Order 10, they have to do it at full council, and therefore, if you don't have a full council meeting prior, then you can't do it. So September, from July to September, that was the earliest opportunity. Not once have we said it again, clarification. Not once have we said about helping those vulnerable. We have always maintained that there is a group of people that fall just outside those benefits, and they are the ones that have contributed. They are the ones that are contributing. They are the ones that are trying to help themselves, and they are the ones most in need. That's what we've always maintained, and this is exactly the same. Point of clarification for Councillor Wapples, clarity on the new money made available. Yes, it is only open to those in those areas that have not spent their money. I accept that you used your money some months ago. Some of a few. I think it was interesting. £8,500 was being allocated prior to the 17th of September. 21,500 allocated since. But yes, so the clarification is, yeah, unfortunately, you will not qualify because you have spent your allocation. I move the motion as printed.
Right. So it was a straightforward vote.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to request understanding of the report.
We're not really going to stand up and say that, please.
Second.
Okay. So this is a call vote. The Chief Executive will call out your name. You are either in favour of this notice of motion, or you're against it, or you're abstaining. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Barnett.
Abstain.
Councillor Bates.
4.
Councillor Clues.
4.
Councillor Davey. Councillor Dervix.
Abstain.
Councillor Farrow.
Abstain.
Councillor Hayfield.
4.
Councillor Hobley.
Abstain.
Councillor Humphreys.
4.
Councillor Jackson.
Abstain.
Councillor Jarvis.
4.
Councillor Jens.
4.
Councillor Amelia.
4.
Councillor Osborne.
Abstain.
Councillor Parsons.
Abstain.
Councillor Hayden Phillips.
Abstain.
Councillor Owen Phillips.
Abstain.
Councillor Riley.
Mr Mayor, I have a personal interest in this motion. Interest in so much as my mother would be in receipt of any grants that are allocated as she qualifies under the conditions set out.
Vote.
I can advise, and having just sort of nodded to the monitoring officer, that's too wide a category. It's not.
You can still vote.
It needs to be direct on that. So we wouldn't regard you as having a personal interest.
If through the extreme I'm not able to stand to cast my vote, let alone give step, I'm confined to wheelchair.
Are you for or against?
I'm for, Mr Mayor, so
Thank
please excuse me not standing.
Councillor Ridley. Councillor Ryrie.
Abstain.
Councillor Simpson.
4.
Councillor Singh.
4.
Councillor Smith.
4.
Councillor Stewart.
Abstain.
Councillor Simmons.
4.
Councillor Turley.
Abstain.
Councillor Watson.
4.
Councillor Wapples.
Abstain.
Councillor Andy Wright. Councillor David Wright.
4.
That's carried.
Thank you. We still have a little bit of business to do.
I've been a little bit uncomfortable at what I've just heard from the councillor. I don't know whether.
Now is not necessarily the time to raise that unless you've got a point of order.
I don't know what it's for.
Could I move agenda item 15 about the signing? Is that seconding someone? Councillor Simpson, all those in favour of that? Thank you. Then I now need to move the exclusion of the press and the public for the reasons outlined in the agenda. Can I have a proposal and a seconder for that? Councillor Simpson, Councillor Wright, seconding. All those in favour to move into part 2? Thank you very much. And then we just need to trot through